All right, so I'm going to talk about people and the relationship between people and brand, which is kind of a disruptive thought if you speak to most people in human resources and people development across the industry, and the relationship between culture and brand and financial outperformance. So for today, the title of the presentation is Power to the People, because we need to put the power back in the hands of the people who make the biggest difference to the guests. And, you know, I think I know we've used the word disruptive here, but for goodness sake, this is the most important. We're in the bloody service business, right? And the amount of actually both large and small companies who get this relationship and who put people first in a business that's about human connectivity. But because we have had a moment or two in the last few months to think about this, I really think this is a wonderful opportunity for everybody listening to this, for all of us, to actually do something about it. And so what I've tried to do is kind of mix some practical thoughts and ideas with some perhaps broader strategic thoughts. So you may say, well, why are you talking about people? There aren't any people around, right? No one's going to hotels, no one's going to football matches. What's the point of talking about people serving people when there are no people to serve? Well, I'll give you one example. And sorry about this. This is a shameless client plug. So if you don't like shameless client plugs, please look away or go and make a coffee. I'm actually going to talk briefly about this place. And the reason for talking about it, because we're talking about people, this is called the Social House. You know, that should probably give this this focus away. But this brand, this experience came from a consumer insight. And this goes back to what Martin was saying. It came from a consumer insight that people were fed up with going to restaurants and bars and events in a place that felt like a lodging establishment and not a restaurant or a bar or an event space that didn't feel like it was some kind of rearranged conference venue. And the insight was also about the fact that in a lot of markets, when consumers fly into a market and they stay in a hotel, they don't actually feel like they're in the place they're in. And so one of the insights, both in terms of overseas guests and locals, was focus on the locals first. Right? Now, people said to me, well, why would you do that? Because they're not going to stay in the hotel. But there is a connection. And that is that if you get locals who stay or who frequent bars and restaurants that were designed by restaurateurs and by bar designers or club designers, and they were intended to create a buzz amongst locals, then those locals become essentially part of the brand, which then attracts overseas guests, because instead of walking into an anesthetic lobby that looks like everywhere else in the world, they're walking into a hive of human activity that they can connect with. And obviously what's super important is that the Social House's own people are an absolutely the key element of this being successful. And just for what it's worth, we have 83 rooms in this hotel. We have 4 restaurants and bars, all very different. About 6 weeks after the opening of restaurants and bars, all our restaurants were fully booked, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It was the only hotel in Nairobi that really was making any substantial income. And it was because it was a social place. And, you know, I think that the essence, and if you look at the feedback, a lot of the feedback is it's got funky interiors and it's got, you know, we've got a Peruvian bar on the roof, and we've got some pretty cool things. But essentially, it comes down to the connection between the kind of people that were employed here and the type of guests who visit us and have become loyal to it. So anyway, that's one example of the fact that anyone who says that the social element of hospitality has gone away is a long way off. So this is my view. I think that the industry as a whole does this really badly. I mean, I remember I was in a conference in Beijing a few years ago, and there was an HR panel, and they were all bemoaning the fact that there was a lack of talent in the industry. And the fact is, there isn't a lack of talent. There's a lack of people that have been formally trained in a hotel institution. But there are bucket loads of people out there who have probably the right attitude, the right desire to learn, and can be trained a lot of the technical skills. I mean, the most successful hotel that I developed or helped develop in Asia, 60% of the people who started there on day one had never worked in a hotel before. So there isn't a lack of people out there. It's just we're looking for the wrong kinds of things. So let's just quickly go through one or two elements of this. Education. Here is what 4 of the world's top hotel schools say about themselves. The first one talks about skills. The second one says world's leading, but not the world's leading, one of the world's leading. It's not highly inspiring. The next one says you'll get a solid education. I mean, come on. How's this going to disrupt anything except a bowl of porridge? Right? Look at this. This is the homepage of one of these 4 educational establishments, right? I won't say which one. Some of you may recognize it. Look at this girl, right? She's looking at a watch. It's like, when the hell is this going to be over? And this is what, I mean, serious point, this is what people, potential, new, innovative people in the hotel industry are faced with. And this, how much disruption and innovation do you think you can get from men in black suits? Okay, I mean, it's probably more about the suits and the attitude of the hotel educational establishments. These people shouldn't be trussed up like this. Let them free, liberate them. Recruitment. Do not hire just on skills. If you want to hire a chef, they need to know how to cook. If you want to hire an accountant, they need to be able to add up. But hire on what makes the brand unique, and the brand is not the packaging and the marketing. Right? That's just a way of dramatizing the reality. The reality of the brand comes from the culture, and that culture needs to be different. So there needs to be a connection in terms of recruitment between the type of people you employ on the left and the type of guests that you want to come to your establishment. And the connection between those two is the brand, at least the way I define the brand, which is the guiding light for all you do and the way you do it. Just a slightly boring slide here, so sorry about that. But just to show you how this works in practice. You want guests to think about you in a certain way. In order to get them to think about you in that way and have certain feelings for you, you need a positioning or a frame of reference that guides what you do. That then guides both the operational processes and the organizational culture, which in turn drives the guest experience, be it the interiors, the restaurants and the bars, or the manner in which the service is delivered by your people. So the culture, which is the sum total of all of the people in the organization, is a key element in embracing and driving the brand through all of the organization and all of the guest experiences. When it comes to training, I have a problem with the word training because it sounds a bit like the training an animal to do what they're told. I have a very quick story. Hotel in Nanjing, was in my room, went down to the coffee shop, asked for a coffee. Please sit down, sir. No, I don't want to sit down. I just like a coffee. I'll grab it and go. No, no, sir, please. This is a sit-down restaurant. Right, okay, so I sat down. I'd like a coffee, cappuccino, double shot. Right, here's the menu, sir. No, no, I don't want bread. What's your room number? No, no, I just want a cappuccino. Eventually, he went away, came back, gave me the cappuccino on a tray. So I was about to take it off the tray and he said, no, no, sir, I will take this to your room. I said, no, no, it's fine. Anyway, long story short, he escorted me across the lobby, then up to my room and to the door, where eventually he was allowed to give me the coffee because he'd been trained that under no circumstances should the guest be delivering their own coffee. So to me, the idea of training is wrong, and the idea of coaching, maybe you think it's semantics, but what we're trying to do here is to make the most of the skills and the talents and the attitudes and the mindset of our people, rather than saying, you must do this and you must do it this way. You must shake the customer's hand 3 times. You must not look at them for more than 5 seconds. And you may laugh, but I know brands that actually put time constraints on certain interactions with the guest. Performance assessment. The biggest issue here in the industry is that we are very much outcome oriented and not culture oriented. And the problem with that is that if you go charging down the path to trying to make your targets, whatever they may be, the culture gets squashed. And if the culture gets squashed, the irony is the outcomes suffer, because it's the culture that creates the inspiration and the effectiveness and the efficiency within the organization that delivers an effective guest experience, which delivers better financial outcomes. So you step on that culture at your peril. Another way of looking at it, right? The brand culture is really where the growth of the brand and the sustenance of the brand come from. And if you're in a stampede to go and achieve your outcomes, you squash that. Performance assessment, this guy, who's sadly no longer with us, Jack Welch from GE, he said there's basically 4 types of people in an organization along 2 axes, brand-driven values and outcomes. First, if you don't meet your targets and you don't embrace, you can't or won't embrace the values, bye. If you do both, go on holiday, we'll buy you a nice car, you'll come back with a bigger office, we love you. Then there's 2 that are really tricky here. Then there's the people who do embrace the spirit, the values of the organization, but don't always meet their targets. This is a tricky one. Now, in the case of General Electric, they said, maybe we haven't given them the right training. Maybe they're in the wrong job, but just because they didn't meet their KPIs or they didn't upskill as fast as we would have expected, we do recognize that they are hugely valuable. So we'll find ways to try and move them from top left to top right. Then, and this is really important, the people that outperform but underdeliver against the values, and he was super clear, they go. Because they're powerful people who command sometimes a lot of respect for the outcomes, but they do it in a way that undermines the essence of what makes that organization special and commercially outperforming. And that is that, well, in their case, the boundaryless culture of GE. So I would say one really important thing is never tolerate this lot. You know, oh, well, they're still here because they doubled their sales, they doubled their sales target, right? But at what cost to the rest of the organization? And the important thing to remember here is none of us are as strong as all of us as a group. Just a couple more slides. Leadership. One of the problems very often here is that leadership is split between an owner and an operator. And so you have sort of dual leadership. One guy is thinking about my building and the revenue that will come from this. The other guy is thinking about, oh, thank you very much, that's another dot on the map. How am I going to extend my brand across the rest of the world? The owner also thinks that the operator is the brand, but probably thinks the brand is a name and a kind of an organization, but not necessarily something unique and distinct. The operator tends to think of brand as a bunch of standards, and the irony with that is that brands aren't standards. Brands are underpinned by standards. So if you don't have courtesy and efficiency and professionalism and knowledge, your brand doesn't matter. But brand standards is a bit of a contradiction. And the final thing here is, are these 2 culturally aligned, right? Even if you have clarity of brand, is there togetherness? And if you've got an owner operator, you know, if he's just focused on the outcomes, then we go back to the outcome squashing the culture, because his responsibility really is to be the driver of the culture that drives the consistency and uniqueness of the guest experience. If we look at the industry as a whole, I thought it was quite interesting. These are some of the major conferences out there. They have one thing in common. Why are we talking so much about investment? Of course it's important. Of course it involves a lot of money. Of course it involves, you know, debt and things that keep people awake at night. But please, 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 can we have a bit more balance on the thing that matters to a business that's in the service industry? So kind of finally, where is this industry focus at the moment? We've got the funding and legal side of it. You know, that a lot of people who go to those investment conferences are there. We've got brand focus, we've got design, we've got construction and fit out, we've got happy customers, we've got marketing and packaging, we've got facilities and experiences, be it restaurants and bars or events. And then we've got this brand-centered thinking and culture. So let me take away the things where I feel the industry, you know, there's already a lot of focus if you go back to that previous slide on conferences. So the investment side of it is there's a big focus. Sorry to the designers, but there's a huge focus on design. I would say the biggest issue with design right now is that very often you don't have that thing that's left there, the brand focus. So if you don't have a focus of what you're trying to create beyond, I want a building with 48 rooms, 2 outlets and a swimming pool, what's the brief? Obviously construction and fit out, which follows through from the design. Let's take marketing out for the moment, because you can't have marketing until the facilities and experiences and the culture is right. But let me also take out facilities and experiences as a focus, because there is quite a lot of debate about and focus and conversation about restaurants and bars and co-working spaces and so on, which leaves us with these 3 things where I feel there is a lack, not only a lack of focus, but a lack of connection. So my argument is that a strong brand focus leads to a strong and unique culture, which leads to happy customers. And just in a little bit more detail, you've got a brand, this is Alex Calderwood, who's from ACE, who's sadly no longer with us. You know, he had a very clear vision. He himself had a unique spirit and he walked the brand. And that became the essence of the culture, which became the basis of the unique experience, which in turn made guests, a particular type of guest, super happy, and they fell in love with the brand. So the industry focus, in my view, should be much more geared towards the creation of a brand-centered culture comprised of brand-centered team members, which drives a common mindset that more effectively integrates internal and external experiences. Internally, better decisions faster, greater cost efficiency. You've got a frame of reference. It's called the positioning, right? Is it on brand? Is it not on brand? Rather than, oh, I don't like blue. I don't like that circular thing. Focus on the thing that's going to make you unique and outperform. And externally, a clearer guest awareness, a greater understanding and sense of connection, and higher, more consistent income streams. Where is the industry in this regard at the moment? I think it's really pretty dire. And yet it's one of the most important things that we should be focused on. So let's go and disrupt.
That's it.